Hey everybody, welcome into the Beehive. I'm your host, the Beat LLC, and this is where we stack precious metals like it's pollen and nectar. Our pollen is silver, our nectar is gold, preserving our wealth as honey of old, and like ancient metals, we hold our own. Today, I want to go look at Harlan J. Burke's latest release, which is the... Let me check if I got that. Actually, I got that wrong. It's 235th. 235th buyer bid sale, excuse me. Not 135th, 235th. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at it. Let me get it pulled up here. So it has just been released. And I have not looked through it yet myself, so we're going to go through it together. And see what we got here. Okay, so 235th buyer bid sale. And we're going to go through it as they present it. A lot of times I come in here and I hit the filter right here. Oh, it's not showing. There it is. I hit the filter right here and sort it from highest price to lowest. That's generally what I do, but this time I'm going to go through as it is presented by them, their layout. So looks like we're starting off here with some electrum pieces from Ionia. This is a third stator or a trite. Does have a little bit of some sort of stamp on the front. This piece next to it here that has nothing on the obverse, so I believe we're considering the reverse where the punch is on these. And for Aaron, he says he doesn't really consider these earliest pieces with nothing on them. It's just it was just kind of a blob. So it gets a stamp in the back into a rounded blob on the front with no markings. He waits till you get into these here on the left that has some type of marking, engraving, whatever you might consider this. A lot of times it's just lines coming across here. This one is a little unusual. But those are considered the first coins produced because there is some type of image on the obverse. So that's what we're looking at here. And on the right over here, we've got, this is an interesting, let's go in here and read what this one is, because we've got a unique punch on the back I've never seen with these stry marks. Usually it's just a couple boxes, one box with something in the box. As far as the punch is concerned, I'm not used to seeing that half a wheel look here. But also on this obverse, you have the normal lion in those early coinage from Croesus or whatever it is. And usually there's a bull on the right. I'm not sure if that is what that's supposed to be or not. But as you can see, there's a little box, a frame around the obverse picture there. And I'm not used to seeing that on these either. Let me jump in here and read a little bit about that. Welcome in, everybody. We got Mr. Happy Stacker. Good to see you. Joseph Lopez, Rockamas, Jake's Custom Parts, Think Differently 3000. Thanks for being here, everybody. Okay, so yeah, here we've got one of these early coins, and this one has an actual image on it. Wow, yeah, and we're getting back there on time-wise. So the earliest coins were considered to be minted at about 650 BC. So we're at 600 to 550 BC. So we're right at the beginning of coinage. And again, I'm not used to seeing this somewhat of a frame around this. I'm not sure if it's because it's large enough that it's seating the whole punch or stamp. Let's see what it says here. Ionia, Miletos, 600 to 550 BC, Hecate, 2.29 grams. It's the 129th variant, reverse NQs. This SNG Kayon 443 is probably a reference to some book or something, I'm not sure. Obverse, you have a lion reclining, head turned back, within linear rectangle. Yeah, so it's within a linear rectangle. That's what I'm not used to seeing. On the reverse, the RX, 2 incuses, one containing a pellet on a stump, flanked by 2 smaller pellets, the other 6 lines radiating from a pellet attached to a stump. HJB 203 in 2018, and XC&G 2012. Very fine. So yeah, this is kind of a unique one. And again, that rectangle there is what's so uncommon for me. Okay, I see what it is. So this is just a line. I kind of see it now. This is the body of the lion, evidently, and his head's kind of turned back, looking behind him, and roaring, if I'm getting it right there. Kind of interesting. Let's go back here, see what more we've got as we move down. Of course, this is the Kingdom of Lydia stater. It's a 12th stater. This is the lion with what was once mistaken as a wart on the forehead. Now it's pretty much understood to be a sun, as a lot of these have radiating lines coming out of that round ball above the forehead of the lion there. Sometimes it'll have radiating lines, which makes it definitely be a sun. Some of them, they were a little more connected to the forehead without the radiating lines. I think that's where the wart on the forehead idea came from. And then moving along here, this one we have more imagery. So this must be, let's look at this one here. This is kind of interesting because this is a very early depiction. Let's see what years we get. So 500 to 450, an early coin. And here you have, most likely this is going to be Hercules with a lion headdress. So that's an early lion headdress. Let's see here. Yep, head of Hercules wearing a lion skin. And on this reverse, what I find cool about this is the swastika punch look on the reverse of these coins. This one has an extra line in there, but often these are just very much look like a swastika punched into the reverse of this coin. I think at the time they were guessing that its meaning was more related to movement, is what I've heard, but I am not sure. Same with the Trisclus. Not sure if that's the case or not, but it is very interesting. You can find on the very earliest coinage we know with at least the king's inscription on there. It has on the obverse underneath of an elk grazing. It's kind of a funny looking elk, but an elk grazing, and then underneath that it has a swastika. If you get 100 greatest ancient coins, I'm not sure if it's which edition, first or second, but it shows that first coin with a king on it, and it has the swastika on the obverse underneath the portrait of the elk, which is fascinating to me that imagery has carried down for such a long time. And also this lion headdress is also carried through, obviously, to the Alexander the Great coin. And then from there, it ends up with many other headdresses, from an elephant headdress to the Horn of Aman and many others. So that's quite fascinating. Okay, continuing on. We are at lot 6 here, and I definitely want one of these coins. This one is pretty nice, virtually mint state. It's a little pricey for me. I do like it, but a little pricey for me at the moment. This is the Alexander the Great, 336 to 323 Babylon mint, evidently stator of 8.56 grams. Helmeted head of Athena, and Nike standing holding a wreath on the back. So that's kind of cool with this coin, in that here we have the helmeted head of Athena, and on the reverse we have the goddess Nike. And usually Nike is like a background feature with a wreath crowning a victory of some kind to someone. But here you have a full drawn up picture where Nike is not actually mid-flight in the air. She seems to be standing. So that's kind of interesting, and a full picture of her, not just a background reference or something. So that's kind of cool, but a pretty coin nonetheless. A bit pricey for me. And then we're going to go through here. We have some Roman coinage here in lot 7. Septimius Severus Aureus coin, has some holes, looks to be probably put on a necklace at some point. And then lot 8 through quite a few here, we get into the Byzantine coinage. If anyone is into the Byzantine art, how much, Jake says, how much is it? Which one are you talking? The Alexander the Great gold stater is $7,250. And the way these buyer bid sales work is when this first gets launched, like it got today, it just got launched here, and they'll have their list price or buy it now price. And so while the first part of this auction is running, if you want to buy that coin at the list price, you can buy it now at that list price. If you think that it's priced too high, then you can wait till the end of the sale, and towards the end of the sale, last week or 2 or 3, I'm not sure the exact time he puts on it. I think it varies a little bit. Towards the end of the sale, if no one has bought that coin, if it was priced a little high and no one's picking it up, you can wait, and he will put up a reduced price and open it up to bidding during the last few weeks of the auction. So you can put in your low bid, and if it's the highest bid but in an acceptable range, then you can get it at that lower price. But if you put in a low bid and they accept it, and then someone else sees the low bid that you have there, they will have the next acceptable bid, and someone can bid over your low bid, raising it all the way up until someone just buys it at the buy it now price, if it becomes a bidding war. Or if you're the only one that bid at it at that low price, then if no one else bids on it, then you will win the coin or buy the coin at the finale of the buyer bid sale. So that's how he runs his buyer bid sales, which is kind of cool. And there's no buyer's fee. With most auction houses, there is a buyer's fee, and it's getting pretty high now, like 20 to 25%, depending on which auction house. So that can be quite pricey. So if you were at another auction house and you've seen this $7,250 for the Alexander the Great gold coin, gold stater, you would want to add probably 22%, depending on the auction house, to that price. With the Harlan J. Burke sales, it is just the price listed. And again, if no one buys it in the first part of the sale, then you can get it at a reduced price towards the end. Okay, but now we're going to have a section here of Byzantine coins. It looks like I do not really get into the Byzantine coins, we'll quickly glance through them here. If something stands out or you guys want to see something, holler. So yeah, we started out here. This is a Roman coin, so this is going to be probably closer to 100 to 200 AD, 193 to 211 AD. So this is what I consider a Rome 209 210 AD. Then when we get into these a little bit larger flan coins, we get into these what I consider Byzantine, or what is considered Byzantine, and I'm just not quite into the artwork here. However, if you like gold, which who doesn't, and you want to get into an ancient coin, which Byzantine I think ranks from like, I'm not sure when they consider it starting point, but from like 500 or 1000 AD to 1500. I'm thinking probably 500 to 1500, somewhere in there is the Byzantine range, and you can, at least you could. I think they're starting to raise their prices a bit on them here now with the gold price running, but it was a way for you to get an ancient piece of gold at almost the price of gold. There was not a lot of markup on a lot of these Byzantine coins, especially if you get one that's not top quality. You can get some ancient gold at a pretty cheap price, close to just the price of gold. Of course, there's some markup there no matter what because of the age, but it's a way for you to get into that, get a piece of gold from a long time ago, which is cool because gold holds up so well. It's a way to reach back in history right in your hand. But I'm just going to kind of cruise through these unless I see something really cool. Of course, a lot of these have the emperor on one side, Christ on the other. Here it looks like we're starting to mix. We got an emperor. This is probably Nike on the back, or an angel of sorts. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not too into the Byzantine. So we're just going to glide through some of these. Have 2 gold Justinian solidus, 1 clipped underweight. Oh, very cool. Think differently. Yeah. So Think Differently 3000 is over in Australia, and he has been stacking for quite some time, if I'm understanding right. And he is also into ancient coins as well, which is awesome. So I like when I see both stackers and collectors of ancient coins, which I believe Think Differently 3000 is. So good to have you. I think he's very knowledgeable in this area as well. Maybe I can get him on the channel sometime and talk with him about it. And obviously he would know probably a lot more about these. So yeah, Justinian would be a Byzantine coin, I believe, if I'm correct. So now we're on to the second page, going through these Byzantine coins. Not seeing anything too impressive for me. Okay, here's one. I believe this one over here, the Nicephorus, I don't know. Half Tetarteron. Okay, I think so. I believe this one has on the, I'm not sure if it's obverse or reverse of this coin, but this is obviously here a portrait of Jesus with the halo around it, and a cross within the halo. I believe that is to represent Christ. So a lot of people like these coins for that reason. Again, for me, it doesn't do it for me. For one thing, that's not very good art in my opinion, or at least not my taste. And again, so this is actually a quite, as you can tell, more pure gold coin. You can tell just by looking at it. It's got a pretty pure gold consistency. then you get into this lot 40 here. We also have Christ on the, I'm going to call that the obverse. If I'm wrong, forgive me. Christ on the obverse here, and probably Michael the seventh here is probably a emperor of sorts. And again, lot 41, we have Christ again on this obverse, and even into 42, that's supposed to be Christ. But I mean, look at that. Look at the degradation in the art. And that's why, I don't know, for me, Byzantine just, I don't know, I can't pull myself into it. To the art is just not there for me. But it is a good way to get into it, because I don't think a lot of people are too heavy into it. And that's why, and I think there's a lot of coins. And of course, these latter ones, I would say lot 40 through 43 are going to be a very light mixture of gold. You're going to, and the off metal will be silver, so it's not too bad, but I just don't like the somewhat debased looking coins. And lot 44, like that is almost looks to be silver there, but there most likely you can see some gold in there, so it's very debased. And that probably is Christ, even though it's a full body portrait there, would be my guess, because I think there's kind of a halo around there. But again, I'm no expert at all in these Byzantine coins. But anyway, we're going through them. Okay, so now we're getting into some Greek coins here, starting at lot 46. These are the Calabria. A lot of Calabria lately in the market. I missed one that I should have picked up a while ago from Aaron. It was a beautiful Calabria. I didn't know enough about that coin at the time, but I have yet to see one that nice that I could have afforded, so I'm kind of kicking myself for not picking it up. But there are a lot of these. Rarely have I seen one with this probably goddess on the obverse here. Let's see who they're thinking that is. Of a nymph. They're just calling her a nymph. So the diademed head of a nymph with the naked boy crowning the horse. That one. And then we move on to the military man on the horse with a shield and a spear, looking to be in action and as to spear something below him. On the back, most of these Calabria Tarentum coins have this god riding a dolphin. I believe it was supposed to be the founder as well of that city or something, being saved by a dolphin and brought to land, from my understanding of that. And then number 4, lot 48 here, looks like a very, very nice mint state, well struck coin here of Tarentum. The reverse is not so nice, although not too bad, but the obverse is quite nice. A very nice, not that great of art, but very well struck and clear, precise imagery. And it's got some cool toning on it. Let's see if this is that supposed to be Nike with a wreath behind the rider. Let's see if that is what they say here. No, they're just saying that the naked youth holding filleted palm frond on horse leaping. So that is not Nike. Okay, I can see that a little bit now. Okay, moving on. Another Tarentum, nothing too spectacular there. Okay, and then we to lot 50 here is a Lucania Metapontum. I like a lot of these Metapontum coins. In fact, I even kind of like this one. I like the wheat in the background, and the bull is quite cool. I've had one of these with a mouse on the leaf here, which has been my favorite so far. The full facing imagery here is a little different than I'm used to. It's a stator of 7.92 grams. Head of Demeter, so that is generally who is on this coin. Demeter, 3/4 facing, wreathed with grain. And then, of course, we have a barley ear with leaf and bucranium. That's a new word for me. Bucranium above leaf, but I believe that is a bull's head. Bucranium. That's a new one. 2024, Neville, 2024, and Tesson in the 1920s. So this would be a pre-1970 pedigree here, I think. Let me make sure I'm getting that right. Yeah, Exonville. So yeah, back from 1920s. So a lot includes original. So this would be pre-1970 here. So and it's a stater. So this is not, I mean, it's not the best strike here, but for that coin, that's not a horrible price in my opinion. Not the best imagery, but priced well, I would say. It's kind of a cool coin. Moving along, we get to, okay, so here's 51. This one is very exciting. I've been very excited about this coin when I first seen it. I seen a nicer example. I believe it was with C&G or one of those auction houses. But this is the first one I've seen come up in Harlan Burke's coinage. It looks like there is a little slight crack in the kind of at the forehead area there. I do not see it carrying into the back. So it could just be kind of a little hairline crack. Let's go ahead and take a look at the video on this coin. This one is something that I'm definitely interested in. The one that I really wanted, I missed in the auction. I was an hour or two late on reaching out to Aaron, and the auction had closed up. It closed at the high price that I was willing to bid on it. So I probably would have put in another bid, but you know, that then the other person who bought it could have taken it to another step and I would have been out. So could I have gotten that coin? Possibly, but also possibly not. And it was a better strike. It had less wear on it. Here you can see some wear on the skilla. Why is this not loading? Refresh. Refresh Gia. Play for me. Hey, welcome in Marsh. Bucranium, Latin bucranium from ancient Greek bucraviov, bucranian, ox's head, referring to the skull of an ox. Okay, cool, yeah. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. And this is not wanting to play for me, which is frustrating because this is what I wanted to see. Got too many people trying to watch this video right now, probably. So that's the thing with this, the way they run their auctions. You got to watch close to when they release this thing, because within the first hour or two, a lot of the nice coins will disappear. If they're priced well, they just get bought right off the top. so you kind of got to be on your toes to catch some of the nice pieces, which this is probably one of them. I wish I had more knowledge on the pricing of it. However, the one that I wanted, which was in better shape, went for about $6,000, I think, 6,000, something like that. So this one, 4,000 roughly, a little under. Probably not too bad. It is pretty nice overall. Pretty decent artwork. Some of what I really liked about this coin was the I think they call it a Scylla. Let's see what they're calling it here. Head of Athena wearing Attic helmet with Scylla. Yeah, so Scylla is this god here that's part water, part dog, part human. But you can see there's a little bit of wear here on the upper torso and into the head. The last coin I was looking at, you could see the hair. The eye was a little bit better, not nearly the wear on the face here, nor on the upper body. So that's where I'm seeing the most wear, and along the hair here, you could actually see in the other coin the lines of the hair. Here they've been wore down to just kind of a matte. So there is a little bit of wear to this coin. They're just calling it extra fine, and it looks like it goes back to 2023. So it did come out of an NGC holder, or may still be in one. I don't see that it's mounted in there, but it was an NGC Choice Very Fine 5 of 5, 3 of 5 fine style, and it came out of Keystone March of 2023. Let's see if this video wants to load for me yet. Negative. All right, well, I will come back to it in a minute here then. All right. Come back to it in a minute. Okay, so that was a double stater. Here we have a same coin design, but a tri-oval, pretty heavily worn. I like on this coin here, you can see on the bull it has this curled tail, which I kind of like the design of. It is missing on the reverse of the double stater, but the obverse is pretty well centered, and you get all the imagery. Again, it's just a bit worn, so not too bad. OC Omega Stacking 3, welcome in. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Yeah, welcome in. Good to have you. Yes, indeed. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so again, so this is a tri-oval, which is a very small coin. There you can see there's quite a bit of wear here, but it would be cool to pick up both of those coins. I would probably sell them as a package. But so you got Lucania, Thurium, 400 to 350 BC, a tri-oval, which is 1.06 grams, so basically 1 gram. Of course, we have a little 1 gram example here. Looks like I need to clean up my computer or something because it is not running very well. But so this would be 1 gram. This is 1 gram of silver, so this would be the weight of that coin. Pretty small piece of silver, but pretty cool imagery within that 1 gram. Pretty impressive for the time period. All right, let's continue on. That was only $250 for that little piece. Okay, moving on to lot 53. This is another Lucania Posidonia Oval, which is another small coin. Pretty beat up. We're going to keep going here to lot 54 is a Brutium Terina Nomos, which is close to a stater but a bit smaller, I believe. This is a pretty cool looking coin. I've not seen this before. Oh, I appreciate you subscribing, LC. Thanks. You got a channel of your own? You're into stacking? You got a stacking channel as well? Let me know and I'll shout you out here. Okay, so Brutium Terina 440 to 425 BC and Nomos, which is 6.78 grams. That's like a gram lighter than a stater or something like that. Italy, HN Italy 2575. I'm not sure what. Again, these are probably book references a little more likely, I'm guessing. The obverse head of the nymph within laurel wreath. So again, we're just calling her a nymph, but I do kind of like that design there. She's kind of pretty, nice hair, pretty well struck coin. And on the reverse, Nike seated. So here we have Nike seated. This is a new one. I haven't seen Nike seated too much. Again, usually Nike is in the background flying with a wreath crowning something. But here you have her seated. So that's kind of cool. Not the best strike there. Looks like it didn't seat fully. Would be my guess. I don't think, might be a little bit of wear there, but since that's kind of in a incuse or a dip, I wouldn't think that, my guess with that would be is that it didn't get fully set during strike, but I'm not sure. I'm no expert. So Nike seated left on amphora, and an amphora is like a hollow rock that they believed they could talk into the earth and talk to gods or such an idea. Anyways, kind of like the navel of the world, they consider them. And okay, from the CLV collection formed in the 1970s and 80s, June 1937, lot 80. So this, December 1909. So this has an amazing pedigree. So that adds quite a bit to a coin. That's probably where you're getting this price. But I have not seen this coin before either. So this is kind of a cool find. Pretty nice little coin, really. With a pedigree, so that's nice. Moving down to Sicily, Leontini, Tetradrom. This is a cool coin. Sicily, Leontini from 476 to 466 BC. Tetradrom of 16.87 grams, a little over half ounce. And on the obverse, we have a charioteer driving, walking quadriga. And then, so here's your example of Nike flying above, crowning the horses. So that's some pretty cool imagery. Not the best art, but not bad. And with the name of the city in the excerpt. So right below this dirt level or ground level, which they consider the exurg, I think the picture kind of starts from the exurg up. Like that's the main portrait will start. Like this is ground level is what they call the exurg, and then right below that is the name of the town stamped into or imprinted into it. which is pretty cool. On the reverse, we have the head of a lion. 4 barley grains around, very scarce with this iconic obverse. We find one other example on Coin Archives, X Mark Gibson collection, the coin cabinet, May 2024. So kind of cool. I'm not too big on the art on this coin, however, it is in pretty well kept condition. Let's see how the video looks here if it wants to load for us. Wonder if I can. Oh, we're not even looking at the. Why didn't somebody yell at me? Not even looking at the coins here. Let me get back there. Sorry about that. Oh, come on. I got too many things going at once. Doesn't want to work for me. Okay, there we go. So this is the coin that I was looking at. You've got Nike overhead over this quadriga, crowning the horses, and the city below the exerg. Here's the exerg lying here under the horses. That's what I was referring to. And then on the reverse, we have the lion with the 4 barley kernels around it. I kind of like this coin. I don't really care too much for the art on this particular coin. The lion is usually quite a bit better done, in my opinion. But let's see what the video does here for me. I don't know why my videos are not playing at the moment. So we will continue on. Whoa. And it looks like the order of these coins just got changed. Sometimes that's another thing I find with these HJB auctions is when they first release it, there will be, the existing stock when they release it. But as you go through, you check back in a few weeks, it seems like there's usually a coin or two added. So it's always good to keep checking every once in a while, see if something new gets added. Okay, here's another Leontini, something like that. Lot 56. I like the line in this one a bit better. Still nothing spectacular. On the obverse is supposed to be Apollo. And goes back to 1994, so not pre-70, but been around for a few auctions. Okay, and then we move on to the Syracuse. Oh, see, this is already sold. This sold in, an hour or under an hour. This coin is hard to get for anything less than this price right here that you're seeing. That's probably why it sold, is because that's a pretty good price for this coin in almost any condition, or any decent condition, I should say. Let's see what this one says. So obviously you have the same picture here. Let's go to the bigger view of it. You've got a quadriga, the rider or the wagon driver, the charioteer driver. The charioteer is pretty much off the flan. You can see the wheels of the chariot with a bit of the cart he's standing on in it. The reins are pretty. This is just a really worn down die. So it's not, so they're calling this mint state. So that means that this is pretty much how it came off of the mint itself. And so when you see a coin like this that looks really wore down, it's actually just the die that they struck it with was really wore out. So that die is struck, thousands of coins at this point, and the imagery is getting very worn down, wore out. So this is actually a freshly stamped coin, or not really any wear on this coin. This is how it looked when it was struck. And so there's two dies. Obviously, you got your reverse and your obverse. And this is I think we're calling this, I believe this is one of the coins that's kind of flipped. So normally this would be the obverse, but in this case normally this would be the reverse, but I think in this case it's the obverse. And I'm not sure about that, but I think that's the case. And so the obverse die here has struck so many coins, but it's not so wore out that they've replaced it yet. Whereas on this side of the coin, it's wore down too, like you can see. So anytime you get these flow lines here, where it looks like, I don't know how you describe that, but all these little lines that are kind of, I don't know, the best way I can refer to them is flow lines. And as the die stamps those coins over and over and over, the heat and the pressure starts to create these flow lines in the die itself. And obviously the imagery gets flattened out after each stamp. It gets flattened a little bit, pressed down a little bit, so you start to lose some of your crispness or distinct quality lines. They start to round, they start to spread out, flatten out. So that's generally what you're looking at. Like when I first started looking at these ancient coins, I was like, boy, these have a lot of wear to them. No, actually, it's like he's saying here, it's mint state. So there isn't really any wear per se to the coin. It was just that when this coin was struck, it had wore out dies. So that's what we're looking at here. And obviously this side is not nearly as wore of a die as this side. But they both have quite a bit of the flow lines and roundedness going on. So anyway, that is that coin, and it goes back to 1995 is the history there. And next up in the same line of coinage, this is another Sicily Syracusan tetradrachm. This one, in my opinion, is a little bit nicer. And that's weird. It's a little bit cheaper too. So let me go back. So, there's different reasons why some of these coins fetch a higher value. It could be from so this one's 4,750, and the next one is 3,250. I believe this lot 58, the cheaper of the two, has a much better, well, I wouldn't say better art on the dolphin side. On the nymph side, the art is better on the more expensive coin, but the die wear is much less on the cheaper lot 58 coin here, and the die is way better on the quadriga side of the coin. So that's interesting. They're calling it toned, good, very fine. So you've got Nike crowning the horses, pretty clear, vivid imagery. Down below you have I believe like a water serpent of sorts. Let's see what they call this. On the obverse, we have a charioteer driving slow quadriga, Nike flying, crowning horses, Katos, and exerg. So that must be this thing here, this serpent-looking thing they're calling Katos in Exurg. And then on the reverse, we have head of Arethusa wearing pearl diadem, earrings, and necklace, 4 dolphins, and Syracusian around the edges. X Mark Gibson collection in 2024 with the earliest going all the way back to 1945 tones. So see, there's several things that I'm surprised looking at these 2 different tetradrachms from Syracuse. This one has a pre-1970 pedigree all the way back to 1945 and has better, definitely much better dyes, much cleaner dyes. I don't think the art on the Arethusa is quite as good as the previous coin, but much better dye work, much cleaner coin, and it has a pedigree, and it's $1,000 less. So that's interesting to me. Yeah, this is not, so this is a pretty good price for this coin, in my opinion. 17 grams. So we're a little over a half ounce. So this is not a bad piece here, in my opinion, for that price. Some cool toning on it. It's just the Arethusa is not too great of art. Okay, here's another Syracusan coin from Sicily. This is much better art on the Arethusa. Better art on the Quadriga side horses. The dyes are a bit wore on this side and a bit of wear to the coin as well, I would say. Good, very fine is what they're grading it. 450 to 440 BC tetradrachm, 17.33 grams. Walking Quadriga, holding Kintron and reins. Oh, it must be like a whip or something. A Kintron and reins. I don't know what a Kintron is. Nike above, holding out wreath towards the horses. Again, as usual. Head of on the reverse, we have the head of Arethusa wearing earrings and necklace, 4 dolphins around. And we get back to 1995 is the oldest pedigree, so not pre-70 here. So these are some, fairly wore down examples. These are on the lower side of your price range for what I've seen on these. So let's see if our videos are working for us yet. Videos always look much better than the pictures. Videos are just not working today. Not sure if that's my computer or what. And then moving on, we have Carthaginians in Sicily. So this must be when that Carthaginian, what's his name, came over to Rome and started kicking everybody's butt in their own country. What was his name? Can't think of it off the top of my head. Let's see if it says anything about it here. But I like, look at this Quadriga. Whereas the last ones you had walking Quadriga, 2 mules or horses. Here you have 4 horses running or moving quickly. It's not the best art. It's kind of repetitive here. You can see the horses are doing, like, all of the legs are kind of doing the same thing, which is not that great. A lot of the really good art, it's, each horse is doing its kind of its own thing. Here is just a lot of repetitive imagery, which isn't as good in my opinion. I do like the face of the Arethusas, not too bad at all, but not that great either. They're calling this a prancing quadriga. Head of Tannet. Okay. So this is the head of Tannet on the reverse. That's interesting. Kore or Persephone. Wearing barley wreath, earring, and necklace. 3 dolphins around. And this goes back to 2011. Flat striking on goddess's hair. Yeah. So this probably didn't get seated all the way in to get all the definition. Is most likely what that's referring to. Oh, cool. Thanks, OC. Yeah, go check out OC Omega. Evidently, he's got a channel out there. Very cool. Keep stacking. Alright, so then we are moving out of the Sicily, and we're into lot 61, which is an Alexander the Great tetradrachm. Nothing too special looking about this coin. Very cheap, $800 for a tetradrachm of Alexander the Great, but the reverse is a little off the flan, and there's nothing too spectacular about the Alexander the Great there. Or as some like to refer to him as Hercules, wearing the lion headdress. A lot of people think that this is a likeness of Alexander the Great as Hercules. That's more the side that I lean towards. But nothing too spectacular here. And no pedigree, so that's where you're getting the $800. Alright, on to the next page. Okay, here we have some nice toning on an Alexander the Great. The reverse has got some cool toning, a little on the obverse. Not too bad in the art, but not that great either. Let's see what it says about it. Okay, so this is a lifetime issue, evidently. So that's cool. 336 to 323. Oh, no, it's not. Never mind. Wait, is it? Yeah, it is a lifetime issue. Tetradrachm, 16.84 grams. Head of Hercules. Zeus enthroned. No pedigree. It's got some of the pitting going on. Not that good of artwork on the obverse, and the Zeus is not too bad, but not that great. Cool toning on it. Pretty good strike on that reverse. Like the definition is a good strike. They're calling this mint state, so there's no wear on this really. And I like that it has I like on the reverse that it has the bells on these thrones. I like it when there's these lines on the ball footing. I think it's pretty cool. All right, moving on. A few more Alexander the Greats. Nothing that I see jumping out at me that I'm too excited about. I've already got an Alexander the Great tetradrachm, so I'm pretty picky at this point. Got some decent facial features for $875. And a lot of Alexander the Greats in this one. Ooh, look at that ugliness there. That is a horrible headdress on that one. This one as well. All of these not too impressive for me. I don't know why. Obviously you had a collector here of Alexander the Great. It's probably collecting the different mints or something. But I mostly go after art or something unique. This one's not too bad over here. And then you get into the later Alexander the Greats. The flans get big, and there's a lot of flat flan with no imagery on it in the latter ones here. It's kind of interesting. This one's got a pretty good reverse. Calling this one Mint State. Some cool toning on the obverse. Not too bad of art, nothing spectacular. I do kind of like the reverse. The Zeus on this one is pretty good. It's got a nice footstool there. That's kind of cool. Kind of unique. Kind of like this reverse. It's kind of cool. Kind of unique, pretty decent art. Looks pretty ripped, good proportions. I kind of like this reverse, to be honest. Toned 2023. It's the pedigree, no pre-70 pedigree. Kind of a cool coin there. This one is kind of cool. $5,000 Mint State. I like the portrait of Alexander there. The face is very well done. Looks very realistic. Not too impressed with the reverse of Zeus, though. I wonder why this is getting so pricey. So this is a Ptolemy struck in Memphis. So Egyptian, I guess. So that's probably adding a little bit here. 322 to 321 BC. Beautiful high relief image of Alexander. Contact mark on chin. Mistake. Yeah, I do really like the, what's it saying? Beautiful high relief image of Alexander. Yeah, I do like the Alexander here. It is pretty cool. There's a little bit of definition lost in the hair here. I'm not sure if it didn't quite seat all the way into the die, or if that's just the way that die was. Could be that there's a little bit of wear on the die. You got some flow lines there, but I really like the facial features. They're very lifelike. And cool hair on the side here, wrapping around the ear. I kind of do like that Alexander, but I don't like the reverse. I would not spend that kind of money on that coin personally, because I already have one, as I say, that's not too bad. So, but I do like the face on that. And then we move from the tetradrachms here down to the drachms. Here we have a drachm of Alexander the Great. So a tetradrachm is 4 drachms. So this is a fourth of what a tetradrachm would be in size and weight. Paeonia tetradrachm. Interesting coin. You got Hercules and the lion here. What's the obverse? Head of Zeus. You got Zeus on the front and Hercules on the back. $3,800. Celtic imitation, Thasos, another Celtic imitation of Thasos, another Celtic imitation, another Celtic imitation. We've got some major crackage going on. We've got Thrace, Stater. And here we have a Thrace tetradrachm of Lysimachus. Kind of cool, not too awesome. We got another one here, a little bit nicer. Let's look at that one. The Alexander wearing the horn of Armon is kind of the nice piece of part of this coin. No pedigree. Nothing too spectacular. And then lot 100, another Thrace. Nothing too spectacular. The Arcanania Stater. I kind of like this bullhead, but it's pretty wore down on this coin. Okay, see, and here's one I was wanting to look at, and it's already sold. I should, before I make this video and I miss out on all the good stuff. So here's a very nice coin. I probably would have picked this up myself. Pretty expensive for a drum, but I really do like the obverse here on this one. I might have picked that up as well. That was a nice buy by somebody, but it's already gone. But I do like this. I don't know if that's a Arethusa look-alike, or what they're called, just a nymph probably. Let's see, head of nymph, yeah, Larissa 3/4. So, yeah, I like that coin. I would have probably picked that up myself, but somebody beat me to it. By the time I get back to that first coin I was interested in, it'll probably be gone as well. But I kind of want to start going through these buyer bid sales as they get released, so we can all learn a little bit together. Alright, and then we've got an imitation Illyria, Dyrrhachium, drum. Illyria, Boeotia, Thebes Stater. That's kind of a unique looking reverse there on a Thebes. I'm not used to seeing. Woo, 5,000. Something special about that one. Mint State. I bet this reverse is. Oh, it's got those ivy leaves on there too. That's cool. Boeotian shield decorative with club across the top. Head of bearded Dionysus wearing ivy wreath. Cool. Dionysus wearing an ivy wreath. Goes back to 2011. Mint State. Pretty pricey. And we continue with the Boeotia. I like this one. This one's very clean. A lot more common, evidently. But very clean looking piece. mint state. Ivy leaves coming out of the vase, $2,000. Kind of cool. Okay, then we get into the old style Athenian. It's probably a tetradrachm. The old style. It's a pretty cool piece. Let's read about it. So the obverse head of Athena, wearing Attic helmet with crest. On the reverse, we have an owl. Head facing upper left field, olive sprig with 3 leaves. Last issue of the Civic Mint before the Persian Wars. This is 495 to 492 BC. Exact type of 445 BC, but without the crescent moon. This coin is no doubt the last of the patroned Civic Mint issue, struck just before the Persian War. This coin marks the end of the Civic Mint patterns. Had the Persian War not begun, this very design, missing the crescent moon, would have continued to be used for hundreds of years after 450 BC. Interesting. Kind of cool. 13,500. Out of my price range. Then we get into the regular Attic designs. The owl. This is a pretty good looking owl here in this one. But nothing too spectacular. I do like the owl. And I kind of like the dot, or the whatever you call this in the middle here. They had a certain name for that has slipped my mind at the moment. And then the rest of these is nothing to... But this owl's pretty nice as well. And then we get into the Aegina Stater. This is the second edition of the Attic Turtles. The first one just has a row of dots down the center of the shell. So the very first sea turtle issue only has the dots down the middle. I believe the second design, if I have it right, has a dot on each side of the center row. I have one quite like this piece here. A little bit different, but the second design anyway, if I have that right. And then we have an imitation tetradrachm, probably by the Celtic tribes around, from my understanding. Athenia, Heraclea, Pontica, Timotheus, and Dionysus. I've never seen this coin before. 6,000. Woof, that must be rare because it's pretty wore down, and still $6,000 for a didrachm. So a didrachm is 2 drachms. It's 9.86 grams. Head of Dionysus. A thyrsus over shoulder. I'm not sure what that is. Thyrsus over shoulder. On the reverse, you got Hercules erecting trophy, ram's head between Hercules' legs. Looks like he's coming up to some shield and other military gear. This one goes back to 1896. Woo! This one's got a pedigree. That's where some of that price tag's coming from. A scarce coin with a distinguished pedigree from the William Stancomb, William Boyne, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art collection. Very fine. All right. Interesting. Up next, we have Mithridates. Pretty wore out looking coin. Here we have a B, Ionia Ephesus. I like the B coins. What is this, a drum? Yep. 500 to 420 BC, so this is an early Ephesus coin. A drum, a 3.29 grams. B with curved wings, quadripartite in Q square. Quadripartite in Q square, if you didn't know what that was, a quadripartite. And it looks like this goes back to 1988. Wonderfully complete design, especially difficult on this odd flan. 1250. Cool. And it's got a lot of the name. Usually it's just an E and an F for Ephesus. This has E, F, E, S, I. Looks like even maybe more down here. Ephesus. Perhaps full engraving of the city's name. What happened? Where did I go? And then you got a bunch of pergamum tetradrachms. Aeolus Cyme tetradrachm. Not too bad. Not quite what I'm looking for. I've seen some of these that I wouldn't mind picking up, but the horse has to be a little nicer for me on those. Then we got a Lycia Facilis Persic standard diagram. Ship brow looks to be Troas Sepsis drum. Interesting. Pamphylia stator. Few Pamphylia. This is a Pisidia Selge stator. Pamphylia side tetradrachm. That's probably Nike walking on that one. It's already sold. There's the Seleucid the First here. Kind of looking for one of these, but that one's not quite what I'm looking for. This looks like Seleucus the Third or Antiochus the Third. Here we have a crucifixion year shekel. Interesting. 8,500. Ouch. Phoenicia Tyre crucifixion year. So these are the coins that they would put in the Jerusalem temple for their yearly payment. Every male had to put in a half a shekel. This is a full shekel. But from what I understand, this is the coinage that they would use to pay their temple tax once a year. And this happens to be dated 33 to 34 AD. So this is the crucifixion year, and that's why these have such a high price tag. Everybody wants a shekel from the year that might have been part of the 30 pieces of silver, is the thought process there used to pay Judas, that then bought the field of blood that he later died in or committed suicide, and then his body fell from the tree he hung himself on and exploded, it sounds like, on the field of blood. So this could have been part of the 33 shekels, but I would say anything pre-33 could have been part of the stash. It could have used some of the older shekels. It could have been anything in between 33 and prior that could have been used. But these year of his death shekels get a much higher price tag on them. This would probably be, if it wasn't that year or date, it would be much cheaper, like $1,500 or even less probably for this wore down imagery. But this is kind of a cool one, and it's a full shekel. Head of Malcart right, wearing laurel wreath and lion skin around neck. On the reverse, you have an eagle standing left on prow, palm behind to left, above club to the right, the club of Hercules. KP above monogram, Phoenician B between legs, struck in the year of the crucifixion of Christ. Very fine. So there you go. If you want a crucifixion of Christ shekel for $8,500, there you go. Here we have a Phoenician tire shekel already sold. Let's see what year it is. 45 to 6 AD. So a little prior. Then moving on, you have a Judea Yehud under Persian rule, hemiobal. These are both, I believe, Bar Kokhba revolt coins from Judea. Mithridates, Parthian coinage. Moving along. A lot of people will get this Ptolemaic coinage mixed up with the tire shekels, but they are different coins. West Texas, welcome in, Rock Moss. Good to see you. And here we have a camel and his rider. Need to send one of these to International Stacker. And here we have a Julius Caesar. I was thinking about this coin too, but it's already sold. That's the thing, man. This just got released like an hour ago, and you got to be quick. Like me making this video, going through all these coins, I'm going to lose out on all the good stuff. It'll be gone by the time I'm done with this video. But that's a nice looking Julius Caesar denarius. Very nice. One of the nicer ones I've seen, actually. And for that price, I would have bought that as well. So that was a good pickup by somebody. There's a Julius Caesar denarius, wore down very harshly for $650. Here you have Julius Caesar denarius with some captives under their shield and military garb. Cleopatra and Mark Antony both on one coin there. Those are kind of cool. 1800, pretty wore down. This, I believe, is an Augustus coin, Caesar Augustus, and I believe this on the back is to represent a star or a meteor that they supposedly seen go across the sky right after his death, from my understanding of that coin. But this is all Roman. I don't pay too much attention to that. That's usually why I filter through and go highest price to lowest, but since this is the fresh release, I'm just going through it as they have it laid out. So I'm going to kind of just glide through all this Roman stuff. If you have a question on one of these, just holler lot number. You want to look at lot number, whatever, and I will look at it. This is a nice Trajan coin. Another nice Trajan coin. It's interesting, this Roman coin. I don't get into the Roman coins. The very early Roman stuff, the Rome Republic, I guess you would refer to it as, is a bit more artistic and more interesting to me, but that's the very early stuff. While the Greeks had more power there, the Roman coinage looks to be copying the Greek coinage, and it's much better art from that older Roman Republic time. But as it progresses, I don't know if it's because Rome grew and grew and it got less important and more civic, but the imagery just went downhill quickly, in my opinion. But there's a lot of history that's very intriguing within the Roman coinage, I admit. So to each their own on that. What's up, bud? I'm on live, but what do you need?
I was just coming down here for say I love you.
Okay. Love you too. Oh, here we have some widow's mites. Bunch of widow's mites. And of course we have like this Prutah here. Some people argue that this Prutah is the actual widow's mite. I think most people settle on this type of coinage here being the widow's mite, but there's plenty of argument about it. Prutah could have been any of these, could have been the widow's mites. Here's an early Judea Bar Kokhba revolt coin. I have one of these. Cranky Stacker sent me. It's actually a very, very nice condition Bar Kokhba middle bronze coin like that. Okay, we're going to go a little bit quicker through this stuff. Again, that's why I generally filter highest price, lowest, because when you get into this lower price Roman stuff, I really don't have much interest in it, but I'm going to try to go through the buyer bid sales as they're released, and right in their first release, go through all the coinage. To more familiarize myself with it, along with anybody else that's interested. But this is all Roman bronze or debased silver, like this Geta denarius. And then once you get into the very early Roman, like the Rome Republic, early silver coinage is a much higher purity of silver, but most of the Roman silver is very much debased, especially after the Rome Republic period. And there are different grades of debasement. The earlier the coinage, the higher the percentage of silver, and the latter you get, of course, the more debased it gets, which is interesting. But like even the high, after the Roman Republic, the high grade silver is still like 80% is the highest it gets, I think. I don't think it was ever as pure as like the Greek coinage that I like to buy is like pure silver, like 98+% pure, which is what I like to stick to, or gold, or electrum, which is a mix of gold and silver. Okay, and here we've got a gold Justinian. I believe it might have been Think Differently 3000 was in here earlier, said he had a Justinian. That one's already sold for $450. So there's, you could have got a gold Justinian coin for $450, and you're holding a piece of ancient gold coin here. That's what I was mentioning earlier. Like, that's a way to get into ancient gold, is to get into what do you call this? It always slips my mind too. Anyway, the Byzantine, that's what I'm looking for. Byzantine gold. You can find some close to cost gold price ancient coins if you're just looking for an old, you want to get some history on an ancient gold coin. That's a good place to look. And oh, hey, good to see you, 3D. I'm gonna be reaching out. We need to talk to you about some stuff. I'm gonna be trying to get a hold of you here in a while. So I'm just kind of quickly going through some of this, see if anything pops out at me. Then I'll see if I can go play that coin that I'm actually interested in getting, if it's not already sold by the time I get back there. And we'll see if I can get the video to play on it. And I think, well, I shouldn't say that. I guess I don't know. So, like, I think that's, well, I'm not even going to say that. Well, I think this one, at least over here, with this halo around it, I think that's supposed to be Christ. And this would be supposed to be Christ. This is supposed to be Christ, I think. So, like, you can get a coin with Christ's portrait. Now, I don't think it's anything representative. It looks like a kid's drawing, or worse on some of them. But cool nonetheless. They're kind of wafer-like, and they're kind of hollow or bent, or how I don't know. You got a cupping to them. It's kind of cool. But they're pretty big around, a lot of them, and pretty thin. Kind of a unique looking coinage. I believe this is Christ with the halo around his head there. But those were what, like, 400 years or 500 years, somewhere in there, after his death, where I believe it was Constantine declared Christianity legalized, or whatever, became part of the Catholic Church there. So obviously the portrait is well removed. Oh, here's a Greek coin, Apollonia, Bosporus, Pantikapan. Interesting. What is that, like a oval or something? Dioval, 2 ovals. So di means 2, so dioval. That's still tiny. It's like 1.4 grams. Pantikapan. There's gold Pantikapan coins of certain kinds go for a ridiculous price. So here's some more Pantikapan, but they're bronze coins. More Pantikapan. Another pan. There are some cool Pantikapan imagery coins here and there. and I have not seen very much. Here's a Bosporus with Ceramates of the First and Hadrian. Gold coin already sold. Pater with Marcus. What Marcus Aurelius? I don't know. And we're winding up. I haven't seen any of the like pots and pans. I don't know where. Huh. Did I miss them or they're not released yet? Usually there's like pottery and amulets and a bunch of different stuff in with it. Okay, so now I'm going to go what I normally do. So you come up here to this. When you come to your buyer bid sale, come to the top of the page here on the left, says filter and sort, and I go to all departments. See, I was just in ancient coins. That's why. Let's look at the antiquities as well before we get back to the coins right quick. Didn't realize that I didn't have those in there. And here are the antiquities for the 235 buyer bid sale. So both of these things I got to see in person when I was down in visiting Aaron Burke. And I got a little bit of video of both of these things. But this was a cool attic. They had just received this in and just bought this off somebody when I was there, along with some other cool knickknacks and goodies. That was pretty cool and impressive to see that in person. Babylonian stone tablet fragment. That's cool. That's cool that you can buy little stuff like this. Egyptian alabaster jar. Roman pale green glass jug. That's cool. That's some old glass right there. That's cool. Still intact. Looks to be. Here's a medieval iron sword. Crikey. Then you got a royal almond oil lamp with 4 labors of Hercules on it. That's cool. Byzantine bronze cross. I'm just not into the Byzantine myself. Egyptian dummy bronze offering jar. Roman glass double unguentarium. I don't know what that is. Villanovan bronze couple pendant. Phoenician electrum amphora pendant. Apulian skyphos with ladies of fashion. Greek, obviously. Roman oil lamp. Attic Greece shard. Roman oil lamp with Gothard. Pre-Columbian Costa Rica incised vase. Another oil lamp with an ostrich. That's pretty cool. Looks like it's had some heavy use, some soot on there still. Here's a Greek South Italian black glazed skyphos. Attic vase fragment. Another oil lamp. These are cool. So these are like little cylinders, Syrian cylinder seal. So it's this little, like, it's made out of like marble or some agate or rock or something. I seen some of these when I was down there, and they take like a clay, and now, in fact, I got to help Harlan J. Burke. He had me roll some of these clay balls for him. and you rub them between your hands and make it into a little ball, and then he would put it, on the table, and he would take this cylinder seal and push it into it and roll it across this clay ball, and it makes this imagery in the clay. So this is the full imagery. I'm going to click on this of the seal. So if you buy this little seal here, it's a little glass or marble or rock or some type of seal that they carve in, and then when you roll it over a clay, it paints this picture for you, and they're considered their seals for, like, whatever they were, like, showed where it was from. This is the seal of so and so, and it has this imagery on it. And that's how you would know where it came from my understanding of it anyway. But I thought that was pretty cool. It's like maybe an inch or two, probably an inch. They're kind of small. I think they vary in size, but I thought it was kind of interesting and cool to see that done in real time. Wow, cylinder seal from 19 to 1700 BC. That is old. Cyrus collection. Interesting. Iran. From Iran. 1868 to 1968. I don't know what that means, but... oh, now I gotta go back to that. Antiquities. See, here's a little bit short. That's probably like a half-inch seal. It's not very big, but it just made, you can see the different imagery it makes. This is like a little bit taller, so you can get more imagery in there. Attic terracotta. There's lots of attic pottery, which I kind of like. I'm kind of really starting to fall for the attic pottery. It's like this black and reddish brown pottery. Attic black glazed mug. A lot of them have paintings on them. Oil lamp. Roman bone dice. These are kind of cool. These are bone dice from Rome. Let's see what year these are from. Roman bone dice, and actually I think they're ivory, or a lot of them are ivory, and they get listed as being bone, but hey. Roman bone dice, a pair of small gaming cubes featuring circular ring and a dot pips on each side, 1 through 6, half-inch by half-inch, squared. Looks to be... that's pretty cool. Let's see if our video is working yet. That'd be cool to have some old Roman dice, no? And the video is still not working. Marble war bracelets. Roman oil lamp with bear. Egyptian steelite plaque, looks like of a duck. Egyptian blue stamp seal. A Roman oil lamp with Cupid. Canaanite bronze figure. Roman oil lamp with Mercury. Roman oil lamp with Eros. Medieval bronze archer's ring. These archer's rings are kind of cool. Must have wore this ring and had that to, pull your strings with, and that's kind of cool. Egyptian bronze Osiris. All right, and that is it with some Roman glass vessels and a Holy Land terracotta jar already sold for $125. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the coins. I'm going to go with ancient coins, and I'm going to go price. Lot order is how we just went through them all. I'm going to go, you can go lowest to highest, price lowest to highest. I always like to go price highest to lowest. Usually that's the more interesting aspects. You can do available inventory, sold inventory, or both. I do both, and you can do 30 per page up to 90. I'm going to do 90. Okay, and this should be most expensive down. Let's see what we got here. That's a cool. That is a cool paradise, right? The ring is slick. Yes. Okay, so now we are going from the highest price coinage down to the lowest. This Attic Athens tetradrachm. This is the early style. It is a tetradrachm. So actually, this is a quite nice coin right here. So it's not a bad price for it either, in my opinion. However, there are more old style Attic Athens tetradrachms coming on the market, Aaron said. So their price has fell a lot. They were bringing in even more than that, especially one in this condition. But still, that's not bad. Of course, you have your Year of Christ crucifixion shekel here. That is a pretty good, I mean, that's pretty pricey, but that is a cool coin to have. I have been wanting one of these Alexander the Great staters, but that's a hefty price tag for me. I think that's a little over my budget, but let's take a look at it. 311 to 305 BC. And it goes back to March of 1966. So this is actually a pre-70 pedigree coin, so that adds some value. That's probably where you're getting a bit out of my price range. But I like that coin nonetheless. Supposedly this is a very rare coin. I have never seen it before, and it is pretty pricey. This is a very well struck coin. Everything's centered, but the art is not really there for me. But other than that, it is a nice coin. This is a cool Boeotia. I am looking for a Boeotia shield coin, and this shield they say they think is made out of leather. And you have your two little holes here. I think that your arm would go through. But anyway, that's what they consider a leather shield, and this is on a lot of the Boeotian coins. But I have never seen one with, I believe that's Dionysus on the back with the ivy leaves. So that's pretty pricey. Evidently, that's kind of a rare coin. I did like this obverse of the Alexander the Great. The face is very well done artistically. I wasn't too big on the reverse, but it's not too bad. It's pretty pricey. This I think is a cool coin. This Nomos Brudium Terina. I have not seen it before, but I do like the art on this coin. It's kind of cool. Pretty rare. Okay, and so this is the coin that I am most interested at the moment in. Let's see if I can get this to play a video for me. I'm going to shut this off. See if that helps me. Alright, you can play for us this time. Come on. Do you know what that owl means on the coin? Well, I don't know officially what it means, but you know, that's kind of what's cool with these ancient coins is you can kind of, you know, with some of them their meaning is much more defined and precise and understandable, whereas some of it is more imaginary and changes over time from what people think it is. They're the you know, everybody has some different ideas. The Attic Athens tetradrachm is like the most known coin worldwide, probably the most minted coin ever, almost. There was so many of those coins minted. Such a popular coin. I'm sure there's books written about the owl and all it represented, but for me, you look at that Attic Athens owl. So on your obverse you have the goddess Athena, which was kind of a war goddess and protectionist goddess, and that was, in their temple they had a big statue of Athena, and that was kind of their protector, their war goddess, their provider. And on the reverse they had the owl. And to me, I think the way I look at these is how I would like to think that they were viewing things, which I think they had back then a much more base connection with reality and nature. And so I think they, watched the wildlife much closer than we did, would have had a better understanding of the wildlife and the interaction it has with nature. And of course, the owl is very cool because, it has those great big eyes and it can see in the darks, which is like a superpower almost, right? Like that's something that we don't understand. We don't have that power or ability. And so I think that was kind of definitely something that they incorporated with the meaning of that owl, is that, we can see when we can see things other people can't see. We can see things that are hidden, that are in the dark, that get brought to light. And then it has that olive sprig on there, which of course for them was so much of their trade and sustenance, and a unique thing that they could control and provide, and kind of that connection with nature and how they were in unison with it. I mean, you could go in further and further into that, and what it represents and the correlation that it has, but I wouldn't know exactly. But I think that for me, that's more how I view these, is what they were looking at it to mean. Like this coin that I'm looking at with this goddess creature on it, which is half serpent, and it's got these heads of the dogs right here, and then the torso of a female. And from my understanding, this thing they call it a skilla, and that was kind of like the sirens that you hear about in the sea, where they're singing, or you hear this, noise, whether it's the waves hitting against the rocks and rubbing logs up and down on it, making a squeak, and whatever these sounds were that they were hearing. I think they incorporate that with with this God, where the sea is an unknown thing and it has such abundance and sustenance, but it's so powerful and can eat you and or destroy you, swallow you up, however you want to look at that. But I think they tie that in to the imagery on that coin, kind of making the connection of the power of the water and sea, and are the sirens calling you? Are they luring you into their death? The whole aspect of that connection with nature, the power that the sea has. It can provide for you or swallowing up. How are you interpreting the calling of the sea? I think they had much more of a mindset to that type of understanding, which is what I see a lot in these coins, which fascinates me. But to know exactly what they meant, or that they officially put out a meaning for it when they made it, I don't know that that's the case. I should have asked about that, actually. And I'm going to be having Aaron Burke on for another live stream next week, Thursday or Friday. Hopefully we'll get that time locked down. So next week I'm going to be talking to him, and maybe I can bring that up, see if they actually if there's any literature tying to the meaning of some of the imagery put on these coins. Okay, all right. Why is this not playing? Come on. I might have to reset and come back in. I don't know, my computer's locking up or something. For some reason, these videos are not playing for me. Normally they play just fine, but of course for this live they are not wanting to. So I might just shut it down and come back on here in a minute. But yeah, so in the meantime, this is their new buyer bid sale. This just came out. They just released this buyer bid sale an hour ago or so. So, and the idea with their buyer bid sale is there's no buyer fees in there. So with most of the ancient coin auction houses, pretty much worldwide, there are a couple new ideas out there, but for the most part, most of these auction houses that are known worldwide, have been in the business for a long time, have a buyer's fee, or an auction house fee, which is like from 20 to 25%. So whatever price you're seeing they have listed, or whatever the bid price is, with most auction houses, you need to add 22%, depending on what their auction house percentage is, anywhere from 20 to 25% nowadays, on top of the price that you see being displayed. With the Harlan J. Burke buyer bid sales, it's just the price listed. That's the buy it now price. So like for this coin, it is at $3,850, and there's this little buy it now tab right here. So if I click buy it now, I would buy this coin right now for $3,850, and they would send me the coin right away. So I could purchase this coin right now. However, let's say that I think that this coin is priced too high, and I think, oh, nobody's going to pay that price for it, but I still want it, so I'll wait, and it'll stay at this price for a month and a half, however long they're going to let this buyer bid sale run before they close it. It'll be at this list price. But let's say it goes for a month and a half, and they're going to start closing this down. They'll open it up to the next best bid. So it'll still have the buy it now price of $3,850, and you could still buy it right away for $3,850, but they, at the last week or two of their auction, they'll open it up to bidding. And so you can put your low bid in there, and if it's the highest bid so far and they think it's in an acceptable range, they will accept your low bid, and that'll be the new low bid price. But then they'll have another little section here that will say next acceptable bid. And so say I bid $3,000 on it. And so I'm saving $850, but they'll put next acceptable bid at $3,200. And so someone can overbid my $3,000 bid by bidding $3,200, and then he's winning the bid. And then someone else could come in at $3,400, and then they're winning the bid. So the last 2 weeks, you have a chance to put in a lower bid, and maybe you put in a lower bid of $3,000 and no one else bids on it. And so when they close the auction after a couple more weeks, I will get it at that $3,000 price. But anyone can bid over my $3,000 price, and then they've taken it away from me. It's a regular bidding auction in that way. But you can wait till the end of the auction if you think something's overpriced and get it at a reduced price. And there is no additional fees added on top. Like with most auction houses, you would take this $3,850 and then add 22% on top of that. So that's kind of how they run their buyer bid sale, a little bit uniquely to some of the rest of the ancient coin auction houses. And this is just not going to play for me, so I'm going to have to wrap this one up. But anyway, we got a chance to take a look at their new buyer bid sale. Some cool, interesting stuff in here. I am definitely interested in a couple coins, but yeah, I'm going to have to play the video and take a close look at a couple that I'm interested in and get back to you. And a couple that I was interested in, I've already sold. And that's usually the way it is with these buyer bid sales from HJB is, you want to be on the ball, on top of it for in that first half hour of release. A lot of the coins will get bought because, unless they're way overpriced, you just get in there and get your coin right out the gate before someone else has a chance at it. So I've got lucky and got a couple coins right out of the gate that I thought were priced great, and I got to them before anybody else had a chance to, so that's fun and cool. And it also makes it a little nerve-wracking too. Like if you decide, I really like that coin, but I think it's overpriced, I'm going to wait, because you never know, is someone else just going to decide it's worth it and take it at that price. So kind of makes it fun and interesting. Some cool old Electrum coins here. This is probably one of the earlier headdress coins, which I find cool. Got the swastika on the back as an incuse punch. That's cool. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff in here. This is a really nice Alexander the Great gold coin, mint state. It's got a pedigree. That's something that I would have to wait for the reduced price on, but it will probably sell out before that. So we'll see. All right, thanks everybody. Mr. Happy Stacker, thank you for hanging out. In the movie Clash of the Titans. Okay, well, I haven't seen that. Maybe I'll watch it. Clash of the Titans. The Robot Owl. Yeah, start looking into them, man. It gets you. If you're into art, and for me, how I got into the whole stacking regular metals and then into ancient coins was all kind of one story. But when I got into silver and gold coins and then looking into our monetary history and then looking into the very first coins that were ever produced, the beginning of our coinage, and to find out that you can still purchase them and that you can gain imagery and characteristics from that time and place that have remained, just as they were stamped on that day up into the present, and you can hold that in your hand and look back into time and then follow the monetary system and the debasement of all the different systems. And oh man, it's fascinating to me. And then to look at how they viewed the gods and they'll have the imagery of both the gods and the stars and how they tied themselves together with the stars and the gods. And it's very fascinating in it. And from what I can tell, there's so much history there that it's going to be something that constantly feeds your mind. I don't know that you could ever say, oh, I've got all that information. You can just keep learning, and it's all fascinating to me. So, and like Mr. Happy Stacker was asking here earlier, what does the owl mean on those attic coins? And that's what's so cool, is you can look at some of this imagery and think, what were they meaning by that? And then you look at their town and their city and what they're, like a lot of these coins will have wheat or barley or corn, or it'll have or horses or whatever they were specializing in. I don't know. Yeah, it's fascinating. I have a lot of fun looking into these coins and gain a lot by looking into them history wise. So I enjoy it. And the art, right? If you like, that's mostly what it is for me, is seeing the amazing artistry, and the message that they can get in such a small area, and yet it says so much, and without words. Like it's telling you a lot, yet there's not necessarily words, or only a word or two. So yeah, it's very cool. And then looking at the overall art of that period, like Greek art is known for being some of the highest, best art known, and then now you look at today's art, and it's just like, what is that? And it's ugly and weird, and you can't figure it out, and it's like, what is going on? As opposed to just being blown away by the beauty of the art and how it's almost lifelike. And then I've heard people talk about that, how a culture's art will mean a lot to how that culture is, and I find that to be true. In that, if you look at the art of that time and it's ugly and weird, and you can't, it probably means that's kind of the mindset of the culture of that time. They don't know what good art was. They don't know what good is or bad is, and that's kind of the culture we find ourselves in now. Where good is evil and evil is good, and you can't tell what right and wrong is, and that's why you see it in the arts. Like, what is that? You can't even tell. Whereas, at the height of Greek art, it was just beauty and amazement, and how can things be so pretty and so perfect, and so, well, they probably had a base idea of that, and so I don't know, I find it all interesting. That is a great question, Rockmoss. I ask Aaron that almost every show, and I try to find different ways of asking it. It is very hard to know and to get exact answers on that. Like I was just saying, though, the Attic Athens owl, the tetradrachm itself, is one of the most minted coins ever. Like, so you look at our, you have the, oh no, it's slipping my mind, but you have like the taller, or the 8 pieces of 8. You have our walking liberties, or like the Attic Athens. More of those were minted than even some of our modern coins. Like, I wouldn't know about our penny or like that. We had a lot of that minted, but as far as real money coinage stamped out, the Attic Athens owl is one of the most minted, most well-known coins worldwide. So there was a lot of Athenian tetradrachms issued. So there's not a shortage of those, and that's why you can buy them for a pretty cheap price. For them to get expensive, you have to get, mint state, beautiful art unique mint. If when you line all of those uniquenesses up to the Attic Athens owl, you're going to find some rarities within there that are going to be very pricey. But for the most part, you can get an Attic Athens owl for, 500 to $1,000. That's just very average and not, amazingly struck or amazingly good art, or just your average wear Attic Athens. You can get that for $500 to $1,000 all day long anywhere in the world, because there are so many of them. However, there are, some of these coins that there were only a few struck. And of course, those go into the millions of dollars now. And that's just from within the last 50 to 100 years, where some of these have exploded in value, but it's because of, the knowledge and the understanding. And now that we have our computer and we can see how many are sold over here and over there, and you can get a better idea of how many there are. And if it's something that's very unique and there's not a lot of them, then the value of those just goes crazy. So it really does vary on what specific coin you're talking about, how many of them there are. But like a good example is here, when you look at this Alexander the Great gold coin, there was quite a few of these minted because his father and himself had such a vast amount of wealth and took over the known world, or Alexander the Great ended up taking over the known world at that time, and he got all of those other empires' wealth, right? So he had all of that new gold, all of that new silver, and they just started minting these coins and pushing them out. So there are quite a few of certain types of coins, but there are those that are very rare. And there was an emperor for a short time that got killed, and so only put out a few of his coins, and it varies. Or there's quite a few silver examples, but only a couple gold examples, or so it varies. But I have learned this one thing that I was surprised to learn, is there are a lot of certain types of these coins that you wouldn't think so. But once you run it through your head, it's like they were minting these coins all day long, every day for years on end. So there was a lot of them, but that's only for certain coin types. So it's interesting and not an exact science, but you start figuring it out the more time you spend there. Okay, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I will be back soon with another live. I just wanted to go over this buyer bid sale. And I listed this on my review as number 135 buyer bid sale, but it's actually 235. So, but I'm going to try to start covering these as they get released. These buyer bid sales usually go on for a couple months. So this will be up for a couple months, and then it goes into its reduced price bidding for a couple weeks right before they end it. So we'll try to start covering these from now on, and I appreciate everybody for hanging out, and we will catch you all on the next one. Thanks, guys.